earned CE credit for attendance at the board meeting, please see Dixie Van Allen. Dixie, waving her hand up here in the front. In order to receive CE credit, you're required to stay for the entire duration of the board meeting. This is a public meeting of the Board of Chiropractic Examiners. The date is May 21st, 2019, and the time is 9:12 a.m. The location is Southern California University of Health Sciences at 16200 East Amber Valley Drive, Legacy Hall, Whittier, California. The board's paramount responsibility is to protect the health, welfare, and safety of the public through licensure, education, and enforcement in chiropractic care. Please be aware that this meeting is being audio and video recorded for live webcast, so please turn off or silence your cell phones. And we will now take roll. Mr. Ruffino?
Dr. Azzolino,
Present.
Dr. McLean,
Present.
Frank Ruffino, present. Dr. Dan,
Present.
Dr. Lichtman,
Present.
Dr. Paris.
Present.
Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. And will you please lead us in a pledge of allegiance?
Please stand. Begin. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we will now proceed with the petitioner portion of the meeting, and I am going to turn over the meeting to the Honorable Eileen Cohen, our Administrative Law Judge.
Okay, we're on the record. My name is Administrative Law Judge Eileen Cohen with the Office of Administrative Hearings. We have three matters before us today, petitions for reinstatement. I'm going to begin with, I know that you called roll, but I want the presence of each board member to be registered in the hearing record. So if you want to start, Mr. President.
Azzolino, present.
Frank Ruffino, present.
Dion McLean, present.
Heather Dane, present.
Corey Lichtman, present.
David Paris, present.
I'm going to make some general remarks that cover the three petitions in front of us, so I hope each person beyond the first petitioner will understand these, and if they have any questions before we start, but I'm not going to repeat it. For the audience, there may be some students as well. I want the cell phones completely off. If any cell phone goes on, I'm going to take that cell phone from you, and it's going to stop the hearing, and you have to come up and personally hand me your cell phone. That seems to be the only way to stop people from looking at their cell phones, talking to each other, and for the cell phones to go off. This is a solemn matter. These are individuals who have the right to due process, and part of that is not to have chatter and cell phones going off in the audience. For the petitioners, the way that the hearing is going to proceed is that the Attorney General, which represents the people of the state of California for the purpose of these proceedings, is going to make their opening statements first and also provide any documents that were provided for the hearing. The hearing after that will move to the petitioner, will make opening statements, you'll be sworn in, and if you want to have any testimony beyond that, you can do that. After that, it will go to the board members. Each board member will have an opportunity to ask any questions. I'll start with the left on the first petitioner, go to the right, the second petitioner, so everyone has an equal opportunity to ask any questions. My job is to keep the record, to make sure that there's due process and everyone has enough information so that the board can then make a decision. After the three petitions, we are going to go into executive session, and which means that no one can be present other than one of the staff from the board and the board members and myself. When they go into deliberations, those will be closed sessions, and that will happen after from my discussions with the board president they would rather do all of the petitions first before they go into closed session. So with that, we're going to start with petition number 1, the matter of it's Kalen Daniel, I understand, so not Daniel Kalen. So we're going to that's CALEN DANIEL. It's OAH case number 2019-03-0951, agency case number AC 1998-55. if the parties can make their appearances, beginning with the DAC. But it was not a party, but representing the state of California.
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. Representing the people of the state of California, Deputy Attorney General Thomas L. Rinaldi.
Okay, petitioner.
My name is Calendario.
So we'll begin with the Attorney General's case, and let's see.
Thanks, Judge. Just to give a brief opening of why we're here. This matter concerns a petition for reinstatement of license number 32057, which was issued on July 28th of 2011. Accusation number 2003-332 was filed on September 23rd of 2013 and alleged numerous violations of chiropractic laws and regulations as a result of his sexual misconduct with a pregnant patient in 2013. Accusation was resolved through a default decision and order that revoked Petitioner's chiropractic license effective June 20th of 2014. This is his first petition for reinstatement.
Yes, good morning, Chiropractic Board and Chiropractic Profession. Humbly and with all the respect, I am now without a question a person and doctor worthy of a license for chiropractic practice in the state of California. The experience of losing my license and the process of reinstatement has completely changed the way I wish to practice and how I perceive my future patients. Previously, the style, manner, and protocol of my office made my position as a doctor very vulnerable.
Stop you right there, because is this statement also your evidence? Is this not just an opening statement? So I think what I'd like to do is have you sworn in, and so that you're not repeating yourself. If this is going to be the same as your position in your statement, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Okay, so I'm going to take that. What I'd like to do, since that seems to be
gave to the board, to the chiropractic board.
Was this document prepared before the petition, before you were surrendered your license or your license was revoked?
I'm sorry?
When was this document prepared?
The date is 1/29/13, that this was after the license was revoked.
After it was revoked?
I found this document by chance.
Mr. Rinaldi, any objections?
Yes, several. It's irrelevant, it's improper impeachment of prior disciplinary matters that have already been established. It's not authenticated, it's hearsay. So, check on all those bases.
There is a problem with this document because the facts have been established based on your evidence.
Completely.
And we have a case that governs these police reports called Lake versus Reed, which basically says everything is hearsay unless it was an interview with you, unless there's something that supports and explains your testimony. The problem we have is that there's layers to this. We cannot, you've already admitted to certain actions, certain conduct, unless you're telling me you never admitted to any conduct and it was just revoked.
No, completely. I understand that what it was done in the past was already judged. I would like to keep moving forward, but I just wanted the board to have this in
Okay, so I'm
paper.
going to mark this now, and I'm going to consider it before we leave. We'll consider whether, if it's going to be admitted for any reason, with mitigation, rehabilitation. Okay? I'm not going to hand it to the board. Okay, so continue.
I am now without a question, a doctor without a license for chiropractic practice in the state of California. The experience losing my license and the process of reinstatement has completely changed the way I wish to practice and how I perceive my future patients. Previously, the style, manner, and protocol of my office made my position as a doctor very vulnerable. Quite simply, I put myself in a position in which I could be taken advantage of. This will not happen in the future. I wish to have a long and successful career in this profession and to give my patients the same gift I have given me. I spend this time without a license redefining my clinic procedures and protocols as to specifically protect myself and my clinic's reputation. Other colleagues have helped me, as well as a practice management company. I am fully aware of how my actions have jeopardized the profession and will work to be an outstanding example for doctors of chiropractic here in California.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. Thank you. So, Mr. Daniels, since you elected not to contest the allegations and the accusation, can you describe briefly for the board what your position is with respect to the charges that were contained therein?
I'm sorry, can you ask me that again?
What's your position with respect to the allegations that were made in the accusation that ultimately resulted in the revocation of your license?
I really regret that I didn't fight for my for the license at that moment. I feel the accusations were false. So.
Are you aware that rehabilitation is the primary consideration in the board's decision on whether or not to reinstate your license?
I'm sorry?
Are you aware that rehabilitation is the primary consideration of the board members in
Yes.
deciding whether to reinstate your license?
Completely.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you feel you're rehabilitated?
Completely, yes. I
If you
feel
feel like the allegations are false, what are you rehabilitated from?
Rehabilitated, from being following. I know the importance of following the rules, the regulations, or the protocols our profession has created for the safety, for our safety, but also for the safety of the clients. So I really am very committed to follow very strict guidelines and protocols and other regulations that the board has. Also, I feel that I learned also the importance of the chiropractic boundaries within the profession and how it's important to keep them sharp and clear. So,
Do you believe your assertion that you made to the patient in the underlying case that an orgasm would help a pregnant woman go into labor is supported in the chiropractic community?
at all.
You don't believe that?
I don't believe that.
Why did you tell her that?
I went out of my, like I said, I went out of my boundaries, my chiropractic, my professional boundaries, and I think that was wrong, completely wrong, and that's where part of my learning comes in, how important it is to keep our profession clean from what is not related to it.
Okay. And your response to question 2 of the petition is as follows. Previously, the style, manner, and protocol of my office made my position as a doctor very vulnerable. Quite simply, I put myself in a position in which I could be taken advantage of. So, questions I have with respect to that response that you provided is, do you feel like you were taken advantage of in the underlying disciplinary matter?
For what happened in my office, the client was coming with in a very negative position to the office, and I was always very caring, extremely nice to raise this person esteem, and I think the person misunderstood me.
I'm sorry?
The person misunderstood me.
You're saying the person misunderstood you?
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
So your sexual advances were not sincere?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
Didn't you proposition her for sex?
No, I never.
I read your statement to the board investigator.
Yes, I completely, at the beginning of my board investigation, I completely didn't accept any of the charges. Then at the end, I came in panic at the end of the board meeting, and I said, okay, I did it all. But I didn't fight for my rights at that moment. I went by myself. I was completely depressed. This was very hard, and I assumed all the responsibility. At the end, at the beginning, I was very clear I was going to stand up for this, and I decided to change at the end.
That doesn't make any sense. If you didn't do it, why would you tell her that you did?
I was going through a lot in that time, going through many things at that time, and I thought, well, I will wait 2 years so I can ask for my license to be reinstated again, and I'll swallow everything in and just keep moving, and that was the worst thing I did. I needed to stand up and fight for it. But I was in a very difficult situation on that time, and I just decided to swallow in the whole thing and just wait for 2 years.
Okay. So to summarize then, you dispute the charges that were alleged in the accusation, and you feel in part that you were a victim as well.
Yes.
Is that accurate? Just a couple more questions. What's your current source of income?
I am a yoga teacher.
You ever perform any chiropractic procedures on your yoga patients?
No, never ever.
And you mentioned that you brought your yoga students to Life West Chiropractic College for a cadaver anatomy course. What was the purpose of doing that?
Well, this was part of the program, the yoga program I started, where I took my students to chiropractic college so they can see from where all this richness, which I was teaching to them, comes, and it was part of the yoga program.
All right, my last question. The allegations of misconduct began less than 2 years after you were licensed.
Yeah.
You've been revoked quite a bit longer than you were ever licensed. You haven't accepted responsibility for the underlying charges. Under these circumstances, how can the board be sure that the public interest won't suffer if they were to reinstate your license?
I am completely committed to follow all the guidelines and regulations and be very strict with me and my clients. No doubt, in the office from now on, if there is any way I can do that, I will be happy to support that.
So you're asking this board to disregard your past conduct and take your word for it as you sit here today?
what was done in the past and the way it was put up together in the past is the way it is, and I learned from that, and I think we all learn from it. So this is a time to, not to disregard it, but to learn from it and come back with a fresh start.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. I've got no further questions.
I'm going to turn it over to the board now, starting from my left. The board member, if you just state your name before you ask questions, that'd be great.
Corey Lickman, but I don't have any questions, thank you.
Heather Dane, I don't have any questions.
Dion McLean, I just have one question, sir. You mentioned that you learned your chiropractic professional boundaries. What does that mean to you?
It means that in my office, I will completely keep professional chiropractic talk in the chiropractic office. So basically, bringing other ideas like I was sharing with this client, which I believe they're inappropriate because they're not part of chiropractic, meaning that I will keep chiropractic office for chiropractic, no doubt. It will not. I will make sure that those boundaries are always there.
Good morning, Mr. Daniel. Just have a quick question. In your Frank Rufino. Quick question. In your statement, you said, quote, the experience of losing my license has completely changed the way I wish to practice. It's completely changed. Can you make me understand or give me a specific example? What is the most critical thing that you think you're going to change or want to change?
In my chiropractic in the past, I was going through very big financial situation. I was looking for clients intensely, and I was kind of to be very amicable to the clients, trying to get to stay there with me as a practice, and I was becoming their friends, and it's a very small community, so I really believe the importance now of keeping friendship and business, professional chiropractic apart, and not keeping it very clear that that's being a professional in the practice.
Thank you. No further questions.
Sergio Azzolino, no further questions.
David Paris, no further questions.
Okay, so any additional questions, Mr. Rinaldi?
Nothing further, Judge.
Any response to any of the questions, any additional responses?
No, thank you.
Okay, so with that, are you ready to submit the matter to the board for decision?
For reinstating my chiropractic license, please, yes.
Okay, you ready to submit?
Submit.
Okay, so the matter is submitted. And before I close the record, I'm going to hand back these, I've looked them over. This exhibit is irrelevant and it's hearsay, so I'm going to hand back Exhibit 3. I'm going to keep one because a marked exhibit. If the admission of Exhibit 3 is denied, and with that, the matter is submitted and it is closed for this hearing.
Before we move on to the next hearing, I'd like to give the students an opportunity, if you want to move forward. It's with the acoustics, it may be difficult to hear, so if you won't be disruptive if you want to move forward a couple rows right now if you'd like to hear the petition.
I only use it, yeah, sorry.
I am working on trying to get some sound time. So you gave a mic.
Okay, so just stick school together is probably better.
On the record is petition number 2 before the Board of Chiropractic Examiners, the petition for reinstatement of Robert Glover. My name is Judge Eileen Cohn with the Office of Administrative Hearings. It's OAH case number 2019-030952, agency case number AC 2010-808. We have a quorum of the board. I'm going to have the board make their appearances, and then we'll go to the counsel and the parties' appearances and begin.
Sergio Azalino.
Frank Rufino.
Dion McLean, but I will be recusing myself. I have no current contact with the petitioner, however, we did attend school together.
Heather Dane.
Corey Lickman.
David Paris.
With that, we still have a quorum of the board because the quorum requires a majority, so we can proceed. If the party, hopefully the parties have heard my general statement as how this is conducted. I'd like to, I know you have up to an hour, but I see that you're represented by counsel, and so I'm hoping to keep it more efficient. So if you can proceed with the, we'll start with the Attorney General's office, your appearance.
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. Representing the people of the state of California, Deputy Attorney General Thomas L. Rinaldi.
Good morning, Your Honor. Courtney Pilchman, Pilchman, representing
It's very low, so P-I-L,
Chman.
and first name,
Courtney,
what, C-O-R-T.
Courtney, representing Robert Glover.
If you'd like to make opening statements.
Sure, thank you. This case concerns a petition to reinstate license number DC 27573, which was issued on March 26th of 2001. First amendment accusation number 2010-808 was filed on January 20th of 2011 and alleged numerous violations of chiropractic laws and regulations as a result of respondents, or in this case the petitioner's, sexual misconduct and gross negligence which occurred during the course of rendering treatment to a single patient. Specifically, the petitioner touched the patient's bare breasts for his own sexual gratification. The accusation was resolved following a contested hearing, which resulted in the outright revocation of his chiropractic license by the board effective March 7th of 2012. In 2015, petitioner submitted a petition for reinstatement of his license, which was denied by the board effective January 12th of 2017. This is his second petition for reinstatement. Also note that if the petition is granted, he has a remaining cost bill of $8,285 that should be included in issued by the board. Would you like me to move to the exhibits, Judge?
Well, if you would like to make a brief opening before we go into the evidence.
Your Honor, we're going to waive opening only so we can get to the evidence.
Okay, great.
Great. The evidence in this case consists of a petition with various attachments submitted by Mr. Glover. Should be altogether 146 pages. Can you confirm that's what you have before you? Okay, there were two additional documents. Do you have 145?
On the other side of 144.
Okay, I have them if,
Okay, so you have to bring those up, because Mr. Rinaldi and the board asked me to use my documents that were, and mine being the documents that were filed by the board with the Office of Administrative Hearings. So I brought them, and so I was agreeing to do it, but I want to make sure I have all the documents. Okay,
these
so
were later
so-
submissions.
So these were later, okay, 44, 46, I'm going to add.
And 145 is on the back of one of those
Okay.
pages.
Yes.
And I'll note that I will be lodging hearsay objections to any of the third-party statements. So at most, I would submit they should come in as administrative hearsay.
Okay, and so can you identify where those are? Let me just ask you, I also have something that's been marked, maybe it's the same? Was it supplemental? There's a BCE.
Does it start at page 67?
BCE 1 through 66.
Right, that's the petition that was originally submitted.
Okay.
And then I think counsel submitted some supplementary documents beginning at page 67. And then 3 more documents that end at 146.
I don't, that wasn't filed with the Office of Administrative Hearings that way.
The supplemental?
It's, I have a BCE, yeah, I have BCE 1 to 66, and then I have a new BCE that is a separate document that was, let's double check this. Yeah, why don't I trade with you? Why don't you go through this? If you see anything that's
Talk to
both
yours.
parties.
We can share.
Here.
Okay, okay, I'm gonna take,
Why don't we, take mine?
okay, I'm just gonna take theirs then, so you can hold it. I have met people just offering them right now. Okay, I'm gonna mark this then.
Efficiency.
And this is everything, this is the supplemental ones and the original.
Except for the 3 pages I handed you.
Okay.
Okay.
So now, I have to find, since I was rummaging through this, and that was page,
44, 45, 46.
okay, I've got that. And put that, and we want to add that all as exhibit 1. And that's the sum total of all the documents. Okay, that's better than the file and the way it came in, okay. All right, so I'm gonna mark any objection to admitting it. You said there's some objections in there.
Correct. All of the statements. So there's a statement by Dr. Bridgman, a Dr. Joe, a Pastor Ron Wilbur. I don't have any problems with the certificates. That may be right.
There's more.
Nancy Clark. Dr. Bridgman again, dated 3/20/2015. What's the date of the one you gave me at the end, 146?
There. One was not dated.
The Bridgman one?
They're not dated. One was dated May 9, 2019.
Is that different from the one that's the first page? 4/17.
For the educational purpose, the council is discussing the pages with the audience of the documents and which ones are referred to for objections.
There's a Joe Sloan statement, another statement from Yolanda Wilson, another from Greg Beard. You got others from Starla Porter, Maurice Christian, another from Will and Yolanda Wilson, Gina Wilkie, Marie Glover, Karen Bozarth, Joe Sloan, Stacy Garcia, Alex Marashko, Gloria Lerma, William Armstrong, Les Powers, Nina Chuck Wimoreji, CHUKWUMERIJIE, and that looks like that's it.
So basically, you've identified every letter.
I believe I have.
If you've missed one, we'll include that as well. So I want to hear from counsel for petitioner and a response to the objections.
With regard to the packet, the petition does not have any objection to having the entire packet admitted as evidence. As it relates to the objections, we would assert that it's administrative hearsay and it should be admitted.
I'm going to overrule the objections of the administrative hearsay. This is typical.
No, I'm just, that's
Okay.
perfectly fine.
So you're stipulating it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're stipulating to the admission as administrative hearsay, and it's those letters, or every letter that's part of that Exhibit 1 will be admitted as such, and otherwise Exhibit 1 is admitted without any restriction. And then I have the Exhibit 2, that was a jurisdictional exhibit that was prepared by the board, which is the notice of the hearing, and related to that. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so that Exhibit 2 is admitted. Okay. Would you like to, are you complete with your,
Complete, I'd like to turn it over to petitioner.
okay, petitioner, your case?
Thank you. Mr. Glover, can you please explain your background, training, experience as it relates to chiropractic medicine?
Okay, hold it. Mrs. Glover, raise your right hand. You swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, so with that, now you can maybe repeat that question
Mr. Glover, can you please briefly describe your background, training, and experience as it relates to chiropractic medicine?
Yes, I obtained my DC degree from Cleveland College of Chiropractic. That was a 4,800 plus hour of education. I also attained a 100-hour diploma in pediatric chiropractic, a 100-hour diploma in sports chiropractic, certified chiropractic sports physician. I obtained a 100-hour certificate in addictionology for chiropractors. I also became a qualified medical examiner, industrial evaluator, and throughout my course of being a chiropractor, I've learned numerous techniques to help administer care to the patients.
When did you receive your license to practice chiropractic medicine in the state of California?
March 2001.
And in March of 2001, where did you begin your practice?
I began my practice in Irvine, California.
And could you please describe what your practice consisted of at that time in terms of personnel?
When I started out, I had part-time assistants with the secretary. My practice I considered to be very holistic. I was into the chiropractic adjustment, administering nutritional advice, as well as therapeutic exercise.
In your initial office, you described you had an assistant. How many employees did you have at that time?
Just one part-time.
And how many hours a week would you say you were working at that time?
Myself, I would work numerous hours, about 50 to 60 plus.
In terms of the patient load that you had, could you describe the number of patients you were treating for the first 5 years of your practice?
Yes, on average, I was treating about anywhere from 30 to 60, 75 patients a week. It would vary.
Of those 30 to 60 patients, could you break that down into how many of those patients were men and how many of those patients were women?
Approximately about 60% of my patients were female and 40% were male.
At some point in time, did you change the location of your practice?
Yes, I did.
Can you explain?
I briefly moved my practice to Newport Beach, California for 2 years, and then I moved back to Irvine, California.
Was the Irvine location ever open at the same time the Newport Beach location was open?
No, it wasn't. They were separate.
With regard to your practice and age groups, in terms of the youngest and the oldest population that you were treating, could you please describe that?
My youngest patient would have been 2 weeks of age, and my oldest would have been 92.
Okay. And you have special training in pediatric chiropractic?
Yes.
There was an incident in July 13th, 2007. Do you recall that incident?
Yes, I do.
Can you please describe that incident?
Yes. On Friday, July the 13th, I was waiting for my last patient, and a patient came into my office and found me sleeping on my adjustment table, and I got up and I started to treat the patient, and I unfortunately was erred in judgment when I rendered care, and in the process of treating her, I lifted her shirt up, I lifted her bra up and exposed her breasts, and she stayed on the table. I didn't touch her breasts. I was impaired. I had a drinking problem back then, and I just should never have done it, and I'm really, really sorry that I acted like that with my patient, because that was my fault. I'm responsible. It was my fault.
With regard to that patient, did she follow up with you with regard to treatment after July 13th, 2007?
Yes, she did. She came in the next week on Wednesday.
With regard to the drinking problem that you stated that you had, could you please describe that?
Around the mid-2000, 2005, 6, 7, I had started drinking heavily because I was dealing with a lot of stress. In running my practice, dealing with life issues, and unfortunately, I was a functional alcoholic, and I was in denial. And unfortunately, I thought I was kind of impervious with my practice. I wanted to be a successful doctor, and I was just going crazy in a sense by working too hard, being stressed out, and absent of that event, this would never, ever had happened with my patients because I value taking care of all my patients.
What was your drinking pattern like in the year of 2007?
I would drink almost anything. I would drink wine, I would drink beer, I would drink whiskey. I was self-medicating, dealing with a lot of depression, a lot of stress, and I was still even dealing with, my own personal issues in terms of who I wanted to be in terms of being a successful chiropractor, successful person in life.
Were you drinking every day?
Pretty much so, yes.
Would you start drinking at any particular time of day?
Yes, I would drink. Mostly I would drink at night after work, but sometimes I would have a glass of wine in the morning. I had reasoned that I was getting my antioxidants. That was wrong of me, but I was an alcoholic, so I had a drinking problem.
Did you ever attend any rehabilitation for your drinking and alcohol problem?
Thank God, yes. Starting 2009, I started Celebrate Recovery at my church. And I also started doing hundreds of AA meetings through that program. And I also hired a therapist to explore how I was handling my depression. And I also got involved in different support groups through my church.
I'm going to show you what has been previously bait stamped as Exhibit 98. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
And what does this document appear to you to be?
Well, I also admitted myself into a 30-day outpatient rehab at the recovery center.
Would that be the Nancy Clark Recovery Center?
Yes.
And you completed that program in September of 2010, correct?
I did. Yes, I did. Successfully, yes.
And when you say successfully, what do you mean by that?
Well, I met all the criteria there. I obeyed the rules. I attended all the meetings. I did my community service. It was a great experience because I needed the help.
Did you ever relapse after you completed that program?
I did relapse.
And when was that?
I had a relapse in 2013.
And can you talk about that for a minute?
I had learned that my mom had a stamp on her life in terms of cancer. And Mom lived back east, and I, didn't really see my mom a lot. And I learned my mom had a cancer back in, it was around in 2013, and I learned lately because Mom didn't tell anybody that she had this lung cell cancer. So dealing with that, I already had lost my father and my brother years ago, and now Mom is maybe going to be going. I relapsed. It was briefly. I had a lapse in drinking. I didn't sustain that behavior. Fortunately, I came out of it in a couple of weeks. I brought this to the attention of my therapist. But that was a very just sad and challenging time, of course, because my mom was very sick, and she eventually did pass away a few months later. I had to put her in hospice care, and that was very hard, too, because I wanted to do more for my mother.
Mr. Glover, after 2013, have you relapsed since then?
No.
I'm going to show you a document that's been previously marked as exhibit page 114. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
And what does this document appear to you to be?
Well, I really wanted to learn the cause of my sickness, my disease, my behavior, so I actually got an associate's degree in alcoholic addiction counseling, alcohol, other drugs at Saddleback College, because this was really something I had to learn so I could help myself as well as helping my patients, because I recognize that behavior in a wide variety of people who are working hard, dealing with a lot of life issues. So that's that program right there.
And did you complete that program?
I did complete that program. Thank God it took about a year and a half and got it out the way.
With regard to the counseling program that you completed, do you currently see any sort of patient population as it relates to alcohol recovery?
Yes, I do. I've learned so much through co-occurring disorders, mental illness, depression, stress, bipolar disorders, and how we as people deal with it. I'm a vet myself, and I know a lot of vets are dealing with PTSD, but not only vets are dealing with PTSD, a lot of people in society are. So this training has actually taken me much higher and becoming more aware of as to how I can help people with the gift of chiropractic, as well as issues they may be dealing with in life, because life can be, as we know, up and down. It's not easy. It can be tough at times.
We learned that you lost your license in 2012. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that related to that July 13th, 2007 incident, correct?
Yes, it did.
Since 2012, what have you been doing?
Since 2012, I love to do a lot of volunteer work through my church. I have a motel church ministry that I've been doing for 7 years. I'm a lay pastor. Ministry is my highest calling, serving God and serving the church. I also teach, too, at the church with my wife. I also do community services. I actually went to Katrina to help out. I went to Haiti to help out when they had the earthquake. Went to Alabama when they had the tornadoes to help out. And we do trips down to Mexico to the orphanages to help out there. I also got involved in doing internship as a part of my program, working in shelters, helping people who are homeless, unemployed, dealing with mental illness. They could also be, I mentioned homeless, and that was a 250 internship. And I also have worked about 1,100 hours working with people in recovery. I work at an addiction recovery center, so people who are alcoholics, drug addicts, and I'm helping them to regain sobriety and regain recovery. I also became a smart recovery facilitator, which is another tool we can use to help people with dealing with addiction. Because some things, if they don't apply, you got to let them fly. Celebrate Recovery is good for people who like Jesus Christ as their higher power. Praise God. AA deals with a different set of higher powers, and that's fine too. NA is a great program. Smart Recovery is an awesome program because it's cognitive-based, it's non-theist, and they have great tools that can help people. So this training has actually empowered me to help people dealing with addictions and recovery. And what's awesome, too, about chiropractic is that combination can really help people quite a bit. I did training with Dr. Holder, who does the torque release technique, and there's been articles written about chiropractors helping people in recovery with that gentle adjustment to the atlas or axis to help them to regain health and wellness, and we call that physis. That's where we get the word physician. But it's beautiful, actually. I'm very grateful that I have learned this because I can help me and I can help other people, too, to have a life of sobriety and recovery. It's very needed in this day and age.
With regard to continuing education in chiropractic medicine, have you continued with your education and training since 2012?
Absolutely. I've been always continuing my education. I love learning. I'm a student of life. I've attended and earned hundreds of hours in chiropractic education, and that will continue to be my way of life because I love learning.
You have admitted exhibits that speak to your continuing education in chiropractic medicine in your packet, correct?
Yes.
Do you know about how many hours per year you were continuing your education?
Well, we're mandated as chiropractors to at least earn 24 CEUs. Normally, I usually take anywhere from 24 to 48 hours, but since I've been unlicensed, I have been maintaining my 24 hours CEU. Some years I go above and beyond because I take additional training, nutrition and things of that nature, therapeutic exercise. It's all good. There's always new techniques, new technologies out there to empower us as chiropractors to help people.
Are you familiar with an individual by the name of Dr. Bridgman?
Yes.
And who is Dr. Bridgman?
Dr. Bridgman is my psychologist. He's my therapist.
And how long have you been seeing Dr. Bridgman?
I started seeing Dr. Bridgman back in November 2009.
have you seen Dr. Bridgman consistently for the last 10 years?
Yes, I have.
And what is Dr. Bridgman working with you on or treating you on?
Well, Dr. Bridgman has been helping me with my depression issues when I was dealing with anger and sickness in my family, helping me to deal with my alcoholism.
And are you familiar with what's been previously marked as exhibit page 67?
Yes, I am.
And what does this document appear to you to be?
Well, Dr. Bridgman is very familiar with the incident that occurred back in 2007 on July 13th, and I mentioned to him what I did in terms of violating this patient with the treatment, and I talked to him about that in terms of how I erred in my judgment and the connection of making a bad decision, being under the influence, being impaired.
Did Dr. Bridgman conduct any sort of psychological testing on you as it relates to sexually deviant behavior?
He did, yes, he did.
And what was the result of that testing?
Dr. Bridgman, it's his professional opinion, there's no concern of any sexual deviancy, any intent on wanting to be inappropriate with patients, people in general. That's not my behavior, that's not my demeanor.
Was it Dr. Bridgman's professional opinion that he sees no clinical evidence that suggests you unfit as a chiropractic practitioner?
Dr. Bridgman highly recommends that I should be able to regain my license and practice.
Dr. Bridgman also noted in his letter that there was a relapse that you had in 2015. Is that correct?
Yes.
And can you speak about that?
In 2015, it was a very brief relapse that I had in 2015, and I was having actually some problems at home with the wifey here, and decided to drink. It was very brief, and we consider that to be a relapse. So I actually had went and confessed and told the doctor about my problem.
And since 2015, have you experienced any significant traumatic type events that would have led to a relapse before 2015? Do you understand the question?
Yes, I do. Once again, when I had learned about Mom dealing with her issue there, she actually had stuck around a little bit, and Mom was going through that. Her final days were actually 2015, 2016, and
Did you drink any alcohol at the time that your mother passed?
no.
Have you undergone any other significant examples that you can give us with regard to times that would have previously caused you to drink alcohol?
Well, every now and then, just, rethinking about the fact that I lost my practice, that I lost my license, that I acted inappropriately through my drinking, causing harm to another person. It gets to you. It's how I identify myself as a man. Chiropractic, this was my baby. But when I think about it, I have learned the tools to not have to behave like that. My lifestyle now is a life of celebrating recovery, sobriety. I have learned that for me, I can't drink. I cannot drink. It has done me no justice whatsoever. I used to think that it would make me a better person, sharper, smarter, and I'm not that type of person. I am convinced. I've been blessed with a wonderful wife, and she's a gift from God, and we have ministry together. So for me, I'm sold out on living a sober-free life, and that will be my way of life until I check out.
Mr. Glover, have you taken any courses that would speak to rehabilitation regarding your inappropriate boundaries with patients?
Yes. A course that was very uplifting and therapeutic was Professional Boundaries Incorporated. It's a course designed for doctors. There was a lot of medical doctors there, physical therapists. They actually do work with chiropractors too, anyone in the healthcare field. That course was very good because it allowed us to come to the table and talk about how we have violated boundaries. boundary crossing, learning about patient vulnerabilities, which was very eye-opening to me because as a professional, I need to be extra aware of what's going on with my patients. I mean, I was kind of aware of that just through my training, but because of my own mistake, I'm even more hypersensitive about being extra careful about what the patient might be going through or had experienced in the past. We all have bad experiences. This PBI course was awesome because it was a 3-day course, 24 CEUs, and you're talking with a lot of professionals that have dealt with a myriad of issues, and you can actually identify, and you're supporting each other. So it was one of the best seminars I have ever attended because there weren't many places you could really talk about your problem besides your doctor's office or in a support group. But this was talking about your problem with other professionals. Not only that, though, they continued the training by accountability. So we had conference call once a month where we all would call in and talk about what we're doing. Are you putting in place safety measures? Because it's all about protecting the patient. It's all about protecting the patient. If you want to be able to practice, you got to make sure, are you doing the right things? I've learned I was a little bit too loose, a little bit too friendly, and I've learned there's certain behaviors I need to change. You know, not to be too friendly, wanting to put myself at risk or to put the patient at risk.
Mr. Glover, have you seen the previously marked exhibit number 71 and 72?
Yes, I have.
And what are these two documents?
Well, one document is the successful completion of the 3-day seminar that they held at UCI, and the other document is a successful completion of the 12 additional hours of ongoing accountability by meeting with other doctors through the conference call.
And during this program, were you honest about what had caused you to have your license revoked with these other participants?
Yes, I was.
And in the course of this program, did you learn anything that you could incorporate in your practice should you be licensed at some point in the future?
Yes, I've learned, Your Honor, and the board, that when I started my practice, as much as I wanted to be a successful chiropractor, I came out the gate incorrectly. I wanted to be a do-it-yourself type chiropractor, solo practitioner, and I was doing a lot on my own. For me, that was not a good combination because I incurred too much stress. I should have, looking back in retro, I should have actually worked in a group setting with other doctors, maybe a multidisciplinary type practice, so I could share the load and be amongst other healthcare professionals. For me, it was kind of not a good situation to be lonely, working all the time, trying to do it yourself, because I did not know how to properly handle that stress of running my own practice. And I've learned if I had to do it again, and which I plan to do again, is I just want to maybe be an employee, be an associate, just focus on adjusting people. I love helping people to have more energy. I love helping people to let them know that they are a person who's very valuable. They're a human being. I say this humbly. I have a gift. And not only do I have a gift with my hands as a chiropractor, I like to inspire people. And this combination is a blessing. And it's such a blessing to be able to give a person a little love. You know, we all have stories, but, you know, I just want to tell you, this little boy, I can't help but remember, I had to get his trust because he was afraid of getting adjusted. So I had to teach him about popcorn in the spine and being gentle. And I told baby boy, I forget his name, but a beautiful little kid and his little twin daughter would come into the office, and he was asthmatic. Not only that, he was taken away from his parents because mom was a drug addict. And the lady who adopted her, she was a patient of mine. She's a doctor of psychologist. So when he came in one day, snotty nose, and I get the opportunity of getting him relaxed, I earned his trust. And I adjusted him and did a little facial massage on his sinuses there. And at the end of the day, he walks out of the office, and he comes up to me and he goes, Dr. Glover, thank you. I can breathe better. And he gives me a little kiss on the cheek. And I didn't think much about it at the time. But then when I thought about it, this boy was able to breathe better. I did something positive, and we get to do this through chiropractic. I mean, there's so many stories. I could go on and on. I have a book, a hall of fame of my patients. I love my patients. You are doctors. You have plenty of stories. That's what we do.
Mr. Glover, we're sitting in an auditorium full of chiropractic students, I'm presuming. They're hearing your story. What would be your advice so that these students, in terms of a safety plan, and so that these students don't fall down the same hole that you did?
Yes, ma'am.
Still on the record.
Yes, ma'am.
If you ask for the record, that's fine.
I would say, you know, I assume a lot of students, you want to help people. That's what we do. And that's a beautiful thing. And as you do this, think of the business side of it. You know, it's one thing to love people and to want to be nice and friendly. That's good too. Don't lose that heart. But at the same token, as a business, because of legalities, make sure you get into practice being covered. Make sure you have a mentor in place, mentors, people you can work with, people you can bounce off of. It's so important that if you want to really serve people as much as possible, we have a lot of successful doctors in the house here, but do it the right way. I learned the hard way, and I'm sorry that I misbehaved and I erred in my judgment because of my alcoholism. But I'm not down. I'm not giving up. You know, this fight is not over. I want to get back into the ballgame. But for you, keep those things in mind. Don't do it yourself. Don't overstress yourself. We all have these stressors we're dealing with. So that's my advice to you.
In terms of your personal safety plan, should you practice, what specifically would you incorporate to make sure that the patient population that you treat is safe?
Well, one, I always want to make sure that the patient is feeling comfortable in the practice. So one thing that whatever practice I work with here, I want to make sure we have a way to get immediate feedback from the patients, because if there's anything that I could be doing in the course of my mannerism, my bedside manner, I want to give the patient the opportunity to let us know, hey, you know what, you didn't explain your technique, and I felt a little uncomfortable. And that way we can make adjustments. It's going to be important that we have close vicinity. My practice was an open practice. I wanted everyone to see what was going on in my practice. But it's good to have people around that can watch you and you can bounce off of each other. Chaperones may be necessary. Don't put yourself in a vulnerable position. I put myself in a vulnerable position because I was thinking, I love my patients, they love me, I can adjust people anytime, and I actually made a mistake.
With regard to the patients you treated, you indicated that you saw about 30 to 60 patients. Was that a week?
Yeah, it would vary, 30, 60, 75. Some weeks were more busy than others, and some weren't as busy.
Without doing math over the course of your career, would you say you treated hundreds of patients?
Actually,
I'm sorry, not the number of times, but the number of different patients. Would it be in the hundreds of range?
yes.
And over the course of your career, have you ever had any complaints other than the incident that happened on July 13th, 2007?
No, I haven't.
How old are you, Mr. Glover?
I just turned 56, as a matter of fact.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank
Mr.
you.
Glover, in the 56 years of your life, have you ever been accused previously outside of a chiropractic setting of ever committing any sexual assaults or having any sexual misconduct?
No, I haven't.
I have no further questions.
Yes, thanks, Judge. Mr. Glover, in looking at your petition responses, I see that you did not respond to question 1. Is there a reason for the omission?
What is stated on question 1?
It says, list the date of revocation of your license and explain the reason for the disciplinary action.
Well, I thought actually I had answered that somewhere in my petition because that's a very obvious question. So I apologize if I missed that. I thought I had explained it in my 2-page letter.
It's in the packet if you want to refresh your recollection.
Okay, so the date of revocation of my license, the official date would have been March, I believe, either the 7th or 12th of 2012. And the reason for the disciplinary action was sexual misconduct and also gross negligence.
And at the underlying administrative hearing on that accusation, you testified that you did not touch the patient's breast and that exposure of her breasts during treatment was accidental. If I understood your testimony here today, you said you didn't touch the patient's breasts. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And did you read the board's decision that resulted in the revocation of your license?
Yes, I did.
And did you see in that decision that the board found that you did touch her breasts?
Yes.
So are you saying the board got it wrong?
No, I'm not saying the board got it wrong. To put it in perspective, the patient, the top part of the patient's chest, I did touch, the pectoralis areas. The patient also written this in her police report, and she also stated this in the covert phone call. So the upper part of your chest, and this was part of a treatment plan, I did touch that part over here. What I did not do, and I want to be crystal clear about this, I did not place my hands over her nipples. I did not fondle her breasts at all. I did an effleurage technique, but I did not engage in grabbing her breasts for any sexual pleasure whatsoever. And I need to be crystal clear about that because I know I had exposed her breasts in my stupid era of treatment, but I didn't try to do anything with sexual intent. And I want to make sure we're clear about that because there was no sexual intention. I do accept responsibility for my dumb error in lifting her shirt up in the course of treatment.
So your testimony is you touched her breasts, but not in a sexual way?
You can read it like that if that's how you get that there, counselor.
Well, I'm asking you.
I didn't touch it in a sexual way. That's correct.
So your testimony earlier today when you said you didn't touch them was not entirely accurate then. Is that fair to say?
I would say let's put that in further clarification because there's an overlying area of the mammary tissue in your pectoralis area. So on paper, if we say, did you touch the breast, it may sound like you're like kind of perverted or something. You grab the breast tissues, the thick of the area, which I didn't do. But the upper part, there is an overlapping area. So if I need to go back and correct that and clarify, for your sake there, sir, that would be the clarification. Okay? But yeah, I'm going to just tell you crystal clear. I did not place my hands on her breast for any sexual gratification.
Is there any clinical chiropractic reason to expose the patient's breasts?
No, it was the wrong treatment. And I already admit that was wrong. That was not the standard of care.
And what was the purpose of doing so?
There was no purpose. I erred in judgment. I was impaired. Absent of that, this would never, ever, ever had happened.
So you were under the influence at the time you were treating the patient?
I believe I was, sir. I had been drinking heavily that week, and I did have a glass of wine that morning. And I was up on my feet, and unfortunately, I learned, too, from drinking too much, sometimes people black out. I laid down, and that's when my body shut down. And that's why I said earlier, when I briefly woke up, my body had shut down. I was impaired. That's why I should never have done the treatment.
Did you often treat patients under the influence of alcohol?
No, sir.
Just on that one occasion?
Well, here's what I learned, too. When you're alcoholic and you're drinking a lot, you're in denial. And sometimes you build up a high tolerance. And you may feel like you're not impaired, and it's called being a functional alcoholic. I'm just going to focus on me. I actually was good at maybe having a drink and driving, You know, it could be 1 glass of wine, 2 glasses of wine. But when you continue that behavior, you have freaking ethanol, alcohol in your body. Pardon me on that word. You have this in your body, and then, you know, you are under influence. You are impaired. So all it takes is just a perfect storm. My perfect storm, after the end of the day, was laying down and my body shutting down because, as we know, alcohol is a depressant. And I have been consuming it over time. So once I lay down, lights out.
So, would you agree that the board were willing to issue you, let's say, a probationary license? One of the terms should include a prohibition against drinking alcohol?
Yes. I'd be open to that, and I agree to that, yes.
And at your last petition hearing, the board found that your inability or refusal to acknowledge your wrongdoing and your willingness to lie under oath make it difficult to feel confident that you will conform your conduct to required professional standards in the future. This was a finding just a couple years ago. How can the board's confidence be restored?
Good question, sir. I get it. Nobody wants a doctor or any professional out there violating the patient. I'm not that person. As I said before, absent of my alcoholic behavior, this would never, ever happen. I want you to know that for me, and it's my word, I cannot drink alcohol. I have support groups in place, and I continue to stay accountable. And the good thing, too, is I want to go around and talk to people about the dangers of addiction, whether it's through alcohol, through drugs, and stress and working hard. So getting back to your question here, sir, I'm doing everything in my power. I have a doctor that I see periodically to deal with issues of depression. I'm not depressed now, but sometimes life does happen. I have support group. My wife is a great support. We're partners in life. My church is a great support group. So, board, I plan on being that ideal chiropractor above and beyond because I got in trouble. And I'm sorry that I let the profession down. I'm sorry that I shamed our profession. We already have enough things we're dealing with. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I hurt another person through my dumb actions. That will never, ever happen again.
Mr. Glenn, last question for you. Your last petition was denied January of 2017. The board determined you weren't fit for reinstatement. What's occurred since then that you could point to that would suggest the board should reverse course and grant your petition here today?
Well, I think what has occurred is how I present myself. The board only knows me so well. I actually am thankful for what I've learned because now I'm a better man. I'm a better person. So I've learned more about boundaries. I've learned more about vulnerabilities in both myself as well as the patient. Patient first. And with that being said and done, I have learned through a very hard lesson that in order to have this privilege of being a chiropractor, I get it. I get it. We need to protect the public. I need to make sure that I'm going to honor our profession, and I will do everything within my power. There's people that love me and support me, and they're there to help me too. Accountability people. I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Actually, I do have one more question going back to the underlying events that resulted in the revocation of your license. If I understood your testimony correctly, you treated a patient in an intoxicated state, exposed her breast, denied touching them inappropriately, but that's what the allegations were and that's what the findings were. But I understood you today to say you were put in a vulnerable position.
I didn't say that.
That's what I understood you to
No,
say.
sir.
That's not the case?
No, I was not put in any vulnerable position. This is all on me. Okay, no one did anything to me. I did it to myself.
So I didn't hear that correctly? You didn't say
I-
you were put in a vulnerable position?
I didn't say I was, if I said that, I apologize. I didn't say I was put in a vulnerable position. This is all me. I'm the one who's responsible here, sir. No one has put me in a vulnerable position. My patient did no wrong whatsoever. My patient knew she should come. My patients know they could come in any time. I failed to maintain that high standard of being healthy and fit. That was my fault. But no one put me in a vulnerable position. The board has given me an opportunity to be a chiropractor. No one has put me in a vulnerable position.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Judge?
I don't know how much time we have, and I don't know if there's going to be questions, but I have a witness here, but there is a letter. So if we're running out of time, I'd just like to ask Mr. Lever a couple more questions about the letter, and then... Okay. Mr. Lever, do you know an individual by the name of Laura Myers?
Yes,
And Ms. Myers is here today?
yes,
And Ms. Myers was intending on testifying on your behalf today, correct?
yes.
And is Ms. Myers a chiropractor, a doctor of chiropractic medicine?
Yes, she's now retired, but yes.
And how many years was she in practice?
11 years, I believe.
And was she in the state of California practicing?
Yes,
And are you friends with Ms. Myers?
yes, I am.
Did you tell Ms. Myers about the sexual misconduct that occurred in 2007?
Yes, I did.
And you told her that before she ever wrote this letter on your behalf, correct?
Yes.
No further questions. 144.
No, no further questions.
Now we turn it over to the board. So if I write this down, so if you could just state your name before.
David Paris. Good morning, Mr. Glover.
Good morning, sir.
In your initial testimony, when asked if you'd had any relapses beyond 2013, you stated that you had not. And then on further discussion with your counsel, it was noted that you had somebody write a letter wherein they stated that you did have a relapse in 2015. And so I have two questions. One is, other than in the written record, is there any other relapse that was not stated in your testimony today that we should know about?
No.
So you've not had a relapse since 2015?
I have been clean and sober from alcohol, and I don't do any other drugs since December 28th, 2015.
And my last question is, are you currently still attending AA meetings?
I work full-time in a recovery center, so I'm constantly bringing patients, clients, back and forth to AA meetings and NA meetings, and I also conduct what's called smart recovery meetings. I actually prefer Celebrate Recovery, and I don't do that as often, but I do a myriad of different meetings because I realize different things help me in different ways. There's pluses and minuses to all the programs that are out there. But yes, I am still participating, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sergio Aslino, no further questions?
Good morning, Dr. Glover. Quickly,
Please state your name, please.
Frank Rufino, sorry.
Okay.
First, I wanted to commend you for all that you have done, in terms of taking the courses and the seminars and seeking the help. And secondly, thank you also for the community service and everything that you will continue to do, I hope, from here on. Quick question. We noted those two relapse, 2013, 2015. And you sort of have said that, I guess, what is that you can say, that you can assure the board that we're not going to see another relapse? I know it's in the crystal ball, in the grand scheme of things, it's impossible to say with certainty. But tell me, commit one more time, how can we be sure, how you are sure that there's not going to be any relapse in the future?
Good question. A lot of being clean and sober and maintaining sobriety comes with maturity. And there's a term when you hit rock bottom, and I hit it, and there's relapse in recovery is very common, but it's going to be based on your tools. For me, I feel so much stronger and much more mature. And I realize I'm really clear that there's no reason for me to drink alcohol. It does not serve me. I'm crystal clear. I know it took me a long time through experimenting, through dumb mistakes, to realize alcohol does not serve me. So I'm very clear up here that I don't need to drink it because I know where it leads. And that's why they say in the program that first drink, for me, I can never get enough. And that first drink, it leads you to a road where you can never, ever really get enough because it doesn't do anything positive for me. For me, it's bad. I can't drink alcohol. So for the board, I want you to know that that's my mindset. There's too many other things in life that I want to focus on. And I've paid a big price. I don't want to make a mistake and repeat that mistake. So I'm not going to do it. It's like, why would I jump on fire? I'm going to get burnt. Why would I step on glass? I'm not trying to do anything magical. I'm done with it. I'm through. And I'm very grateful. God is my witness. You're my witness. I'm very grateful that I have this opportunity to give back. And I've learned through my mistakes. And that's what I plan on doing, giving back. I hope that answers the question there, Dr. Friedman.
Hi, Heather Dane. I have a couple of questions. In your latest letter, June 8th April 17th of 2019 from Dr. Bridgman,
Yes.
he recapped some of the things that we already knew about you, that you did an 18-month program at DMV, a 3-day professional boundaries class. The 18-month-long program by the DMV, was that court mandated or was that on your own choosing?
That was court mandated.
Okay, what about the 3-day professional boundaries class?
That was volunteer. I signed up for that.
Okay, and when's the last time you saw Dr. Bridgman?
I saw Dr. Bridgman actually about maybe within the last month or 2 months.
And how often do you follow up with him?
Now I see Dr. Bridgman seasonally, maybe twice a year. Not often. The frequency of seeing him has decreased.
And then one more question. You said that in your practice you want to get, if your license is reinstated, you want to get immediate feedback from the patients about things so that you can better your practice protocols.
Well,
How do you plan on doing that?
well, actually, to put that in perspective, there's different things I see that we can implement. So one of the things through anonymous surveys, and it's not immediate, it's just something, I want to make sure we're doing whatever we need to do to maintain safe boundaries. And what I was suggesting is, it was an idea that came up, having a way for patients to communicate back anonymously if there's something that a doctor was doing that made them feel uncomfortable, because that's an indication that there's something that I need to correct in my behavior. Okay, so that's what I meant by that, to get immediate feedback. That was a tool, surveys, or they can actually talk with the CA. We could train them at some point, communicate with the patient, and get a feel so they feel comfortable. How's the doctor doing? Because if there's something there that I could be doing that I'm not aware of, I want to know about it. I'm pretty cognitive in general. Like I said, if absent of this drinking, this would not be a problem. But at the same token, I've learned I need to not be as friendly. You know, it's just maybe shake hands and be just very more formal, more conservative, versus being too friendly and liberal and wanting to hug or, talk about the families. Keep it professional.
Corey Lickman, I have a few questions, Mr. Glover. You mentioned earlier in your testimony that the patient came back about a week later.
Yes, about 4 days later.
What was, in brief, what happened during that interaction?
Well, when the patient came back on Wednesday afternoon, and she actually, too, had emailed me saying she was going to be coming back in, I pulled her aside, and I actually had talked to her, and I explained to her that the way I had treated her, that was inappropriate, and I kind of half apologized, and she was saying, what was going on with you? And I just didn't go into any great explanation, but I wanted to make sure she was okay. And then we proceeded to go and do a regular treatment. This time was for her low back area. And we also talked about, which was kind of interesting to me, she wanted to talk about nutrition or hormonal balancing. And then I went ahead and did treatment, and some other patients were coming in. But that's what went on with her return visit on Wednesday. Just one time.
Are you saying one time after the second time?
Yes, ma'am. Just one time. Yes.
One time after the incident. Correct?
Yes.
So we also talked about obviously how we know, what you can do to prevent relapse, and what outlets do you have for stress right now?
Okay. Well, one is I exercise. I read the Word. I pray. Meditate. My way of dealing with stress has changed dramatically because I don't look at it as stress as being as stressful. There's no need for me to be as stressed out because of my faith. I feel like I'm headed in a certain direction, and I'm thankful for the direction I'm headed into. And by commandment of my God, it's like I don't have to worry as much. So when I deal with issues coming out, I think it through more methodically. I don't need to worry about, am I going to make it financially with my practice? Things are working out much better now. It's like I kind of made it through some storms. I'm thankful for that. So as stress comes my way, I just sit down and write it out and look at solutions. And I don't drink. So that makes a big difference. That makes a huge difference.
One more question. Have you kept up with any of your certifications? Or have you?
No, just my CEUs for the most part, because unfortunately when you're not licensed, you kind of lose that credibility. Yes, sir.
Mr. Joslin, I do have a follow-up question. Mr. Glover, once again, I'll echo Mr. Rufino's, commending you for your efforts. I do recall your previous hearing. And the only thing that I see different at this moment is a letter from Dr. Bridgman stating that you were diagnosed as having an alcohol abuse disorder, recurrent mood disorder, adjustment disorder, and mixed depressed and anxious features. Are you treating those in any other way, shape, or form besides your spiritual background and your working out?
It's like a combination approach, doctor. Talking with my therapist about life issues, and there's nothing that's so trying that I don't. My faith is what guides me the most. So when we say treatment, I'm not on any medication. My treatment is staying faithful to the Word, trusting God, and taking action. I have to do my part. So my treatment, that's part of my treatment. I have a support group. Talking it over with my family. I've learned how to open up more. That's something that I used to not do because I'm a private individual. I'm kind of to myself. But I've learned to trust people. That's part of my treatment, if that makes sense.
So Mr. Rinaldi asked you a question earlier, and I wasn't clear that I heard the answer. And that is, what has changed since your last hearing here at 2016 to current day?
Well, once again, I've become more aware of vulnerabilities that patients and even prospective patients may have, which means me as a professional, I have to make sure that I'm crossing my T's, dotting my I's, being very professional, sir, very professional, and not crossing boundaries or doing things that can be misinterpreted. How you greet a person, shaking their hands, making sure you're not doing things, not having relationships with the patients in terms of simple things, family gatherings, fun events. There's a very fine line for the professional, making sure you don't get too overly involved in your patient's life. I'm the fiduciary here. I want to be liked, but my like is not the issue here. I need to be the doctor. So it's all about being professional. So this actually has raised my level of professionalism because of the training, the awareness. The PBI class, this is one of the best seminars I've been to because it actually helped me to be more aware. I didn't really think in great detail about those vulnerabilities that people are having. We're dealing with people with bad habits, hurts, hang-ups, things that might have happened years ago. I need to be careful, and we can't protect against everything, but I need to do my part, making sure I'm not doing something that could trigger something to make that person feel at harm. So as chiropractors, because we have to lay our hands on, we're already in a interesting profession, but for me, I have to be that extra more careful. And that's why I'm going to make sure I have things in my practice protection program, open access, working with the chaperone, making sure that the staff knows what's going on with me, making sure if there's something I'm doing wrong, let me know. I have no fears about mistreating anyone, to be quite honest with you, because I believe in treating all my patients the same. They're patients. I'm there to do my job as a professional. But at the same token, I need to be a little more aware and a little more keen how I handle that person.
Yeah, you seem to be falling right into a mischaracterization that this was a vulnerability on your part and the patient's part, walking too close to a fine line. Is that correct?
There's no vulnerability on my part except for being not professional. The patient felt that I didn't render standard of care, which is correct. What I'm saying is, as the doctor, as a professional, that is not the standard of care. And because I was negligent, was sloppy, I did harm to the patient. This person may have other issues going on that can make that harm even more intense. I don't want any of my patients feeling afraid, feeling uncomfortable, at risk. I want them to come in for their care and to feel relieved of their care for their diagnosis and their treatment plan. But what I'm saying as a professional, I need to keep in mind that it's important that I watch the way I walk, the way I talk, and as I render care, being extra professional. So that's what I mean by vulnerabilities.
Any redirect? Is the board's questions?
Yeah, I guess I'll touch on that last question, Dr. Azzolino. I don't believe that Mr. Glover has sat here this morning and discussed the fact that he is not responsible. I think we've heard just the opposite.
Okay, that's closing argument. I'm asking you any redirect questions.
Okay, let me ask it to Mr. Glover. Mr. Glover, you were asked a question with regard to whether or not you are focusing your blame on a patient versus taking responsibility. Do you think that's a mischaracterization of what you have testified to?
Yes, that's a mischaracterization.
And why?
Because my patient was not at fault. It was my fault. There's nothing the patient did but be the patient, coming in to see the doctor for care. I hope there's nothing I said that gives anyone that impression, because I don't think I said that the patient did. No, the patients are there to come see the doctor for care and treatment.
Thank you.
No more questions.
We've heard a lot of basically argument, and I wouldn't say argument, but almost like statements. Do you have anything additionally in a short closing that you'd like to add? I'll put it over first to Ms. Rinaldi and then to counsel.
People submit.
Okay.
Very briefly, Mr. Glover is a prime example of someone who has tried very diligently to better himself, to educate himself, to make sure that this incident does not repeat itself. And he's done that through what's been contained in the evidence, which is professional boundaries programs, ethics programs, the programs that he did not take the last time and did not supply the board the last time. He has had psychological counseling in terms of sexual deviant behavior. He is not someone who's sexually deviant, and he is someone who his doctor thinks is fit to practice, something he did not have at his last hearing. And those are the two issues that kept him from getting his license back. Mr. Glover is is not concerned about whether there's gonna be a alcohol restriction. He's happy to comply with any alcohol restriction. He's happy to comply with any terms and conditions. He wants to prove himself, he wants his license back. He wants to continue to contribute to the practice of chiropractic medicine, because that is his calling, and that is something that he loves. And I'm not sure how many petitioners this board sees per month, and I'm not sure how he compares to those petitions, but that's not important for our purposes. Our purposes is to see that whether or not Dr. Glover has expressed the remorse, and has he expressed evidence of rehabilitation, and he has met both of those burdens. And it is because of that we would ask that the board and the court to grant him his license. Thank you. Submit.
Submitted and the record is closed. Thank you both for your professionalism.